everybody, Ellie here for WhoCulture once again, and wow. Hello everybody, Ellie here for WhoCulture. How's everybody doing? I want to talk to you about May. We know that season 1 is going to be dropping in May. What we don't know is when in May the first episode of season 1 will drop. And as we've been discussing this behind the scenes here at WhoCulture, we've come to realise that May is actually quite a tricky month for Doctor Who to be launching in. So what we thought we'd do is we'd look at the 4 potential Saturdays in May that Doctor Who could air, and look at the ups and downs, if you will, of launching on those particular dates. And as always, we want to hear your thoughts as well, so when we get to the end of the video, do let us know in the comments which of these 4 dates you think is the most likely that we're going to see the first episode. So the first Saturday in May is May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Obviously, this kind of speaks for itself. May the 4th is Star Wars Day. There usually are a lot of big Star Wars related announcements on the 4th of May. It's kind of a general knowledge thing that this day is reserved for Star Wars fans and Star Wars news. I mean, just last year, season 2 of Star Wars Visions was dropped on Disney+. So basically, in other words, there's just a lot of social media and online attention on Star Wars on that particular day. And would it be a very good thing for Doctor Who to be competing with that? I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I tend to think that Star Wars Day, the acknowledgement of that is not such a big deal in the UK. Maybe more so now, but generally speaking, Doctor Who for a UK viewership is, you know, your gran isn't going to be checking Twitter to see what Star Wars news has been announced, but she might be inclined to sit and watch Doctor Who. So in that regard, is it going to affect it too much? No, but then we have to consider the fact that Doctor Who, particularly from season 1 onwards, is going to be a big Disney extravaganza. So when you look at it from that point of view, would Disney do that? I don't think. Thinking from the perspective of it now being on Disney Plus and the fact that Russell T Davies has said that Disney is going to make a real big deal out of promoting Doctor Who, it seems really illogical to have the first episode of Doctor Who dropping on the same day as Star Wars is a huge deal. There would just be too much competition there, I think, don't you? I suppose the only bright side to that, if it were the case, is that if Doctor Who was launching on that day, then there potentially could be more attention on Doctor Who to viewers who maybe weren't really watching for it, but if it is mixed in with Star Wars promotion, then perhaps other people might see it who wouldn't have originally seen it. But we want Doctor Who to dominate, you know? We've been teased that Disney is going to really take hold of Doctor Who and shine a light on it, and it really doesn't seem like throwing it on the same day as Star Wars Day would be the right way to do that. We want to see the same attention that you will be giving to Star Wars on Star Wars Day to Doctor Who. So don't do them on the same day, because one will clearly overshadow the other. And I think we know which will be the one overshadowing. So the only other thing to note here with regards to the 4th of May is that earlier this week, or last week, Russell T Davies shared a poster that announced that May would be when Doctor Who was dropping, although we kind of knew it, but he posted something on Instagram, and in the comments of that post, Juno Dawson, who is one of the co-hosts for the official Doctor Who podcast, she commented, "May the 4th be with you, is that the right franchise?" Is this just a joke? Or did she just let slip when the first episode was dropping? Russell's reply to that was, "back in your box." So the fact that the comment hasn't been immediately removed and he's joined in on the joke says to me that it's just a little bit of it's just a phrase. So the next Saturday, the 11th of May, is when we have the grand final for the Eurovision Song Contest. Another great, massive, huge TV event, particularly in the UK, but also across all of the countries that participate in the Eurovision Song Contest. Over 10 million people watched it last year. That is a lot of people just tuning in to regular old telly rather than streaming, which is kind of more favoured nowadays. Now, Eurovision doesn't actually start until 8 p.m, so there is the potential that Doctor Who could air at 7, or, you know, the episodes we've had previously, the 60th anniversary, the Christmas specials, they were a little bit earlier, but I'm not sure if that is a bold choice. I don't know if that's a wise move. Also, there tends to be a lot of discussion and interviews and panels and things with regards to Eurovision before Eurovision. So I wonder if that slot before is reserved for, you know, some sort of panel or news segment with regards to Eurovision. Personally, I think more likely it's another major distraction. Ideally, you want Doctor Who to be the big launch. You don't want it to be overshadowed by other things. You don't want it to be overshadowed by Star Wars Day. You don't want it to be overshadowed by Eurovision. You want it to be its main event. You know, you want everyone in the UK, especially, to be talking about the Doctor Who episode that they watched that weekend, as opposed to the crazy song that Finland entered into Eurovision. Now, what we have thought as we've been discussing this is that what they would be better off doing is releasing a final trailer for the first episode during Eurovision and then dropping the first episode the following week. It's the perfect opportunity for that last marketing push. And last year we got a 60th trailer during Eurovision and it was a brilliant trailer, so there's precedent for it and it worked very, very well. So then the following week, Saturday the 18th of May. Now, there's no major TV or streaming event that we know of happening on this particular day, especially nothing that would really grasp the attention of a Doctor Who fan. I think that this would be the best option. As we said as well, the best thing to do would be to drop a trailer the week before during Eurovision when you have lots of eyes on the telly. Lots of people will see that trailer. Those who may not have been intrigued before may then be intrigued if they see the trailer during Eurovision, and then drop episode 1 on the 18th of May when there's nothing really else to distract from the attention that Doctor Who deserves. Then you've got the 25th of May the following week. Now, this is the same date as the FA Cup final in the UK. Another major TV event. Usually it has between 8 to 10 million viewers. The final does air earlier in the day, so again, there could be a certain logic to airing just after the end of that football match so that you have lots of viewers already on the TV. I mean, some people like to sit and watch TV all day, but would attention kind of be waning after sitting through the football match? But also then you run the risk of, you know, what happens if we go to extra time or to penalties, then Doctor Who would then get pushed back, and I don't think they would do that. There's too much uncertainties with how a football match will end to have anything like Doctor Who airing immediately after where you can't be certain what time it will actually air. You know, sometimes if it's like the news segment or something, it's not the end of the world if it gets pushed, if it's not breaking news. But something like Doctor Who, you want to be able to say it will air on this day at this time, unless the football runs into penalties or goes into extra time. I don't think that they would do that. The other thing to consider with the later dates in May is that they're getting closer to the warmer period of summertime. You know, as we get closer to June and the end of May. It's not, we already have discussed that summer isn't really the ideal time to be airing something like this. You know, you want people to be sat in watching the telly, which you more likely are to do during those colder months of the year, you know, like right now. As we get into summer, people want to make the most of the warm weather and the extra daylight, and they want to, you know, they'll go out drinking perhaps, or they might go to the beach, or they'll be outside, and you're less likely to be inclined to go, oh, I'm going to go in and watch TV now at 6 p.m. Because it's still sunny and warm outside and Doctor Who can wait. The other thing to consider for all of this, speaking of football as we just were, is that all of these dates are affected by Euro 2024. England play on the 16th of June, the 20th of June and the 25th of June. Now, none of those are Saturdays, but regardless of when Doctor Who launches, there will be clashes with some big football matches on various Saturdays. Now, they might not be England matches, but that kind of doesn't matter when it's such a big thing like the Euros, especially when there's lots of sweepstakes going around and people are riding on their team winning to win the money or win the prize. And also, you know, you've got, for example, Saturday the 15th of June at 5 p.m, you've got Spain versus Croatia. That's a very exciting match between two very top teams. And then Saturday the 22nd of June, you've got Turkey versus Portugal at 5 p.m. And many of these matches will be on the BBC. And if they're not on BBC and they're over, say, on ITV, then while it wouldn't clash in terms of scheduling on BBC for Doctor Who, it could take a lot of viewers away from watching Doctor Who on BBC and switch over to ITV to watch the football instead. I mean, if the results go the way that the world rankings are, England could play Italy in the quarterfinal, and last year, that would be on the 6th of July at 5 p.m. For the last Euros, Italy did beat us. So that would be a game that there would be a lot of investment in and a lot of people would want to watch. And obviously this is all just from a UK perspective, but this is an international tournament, so that's not taking into account viewership in other European countries who also will have investment in watching this tournament. So it's not just the UK viewers who might not be inclined to watch Doctor Who as opposed to this football tournament. Viewership throughout Europe would also maybe dwindle because of this. But basically, to put it plainly, warm weather, major football tournament, two major distractions from Doctor Who. Obviously, Doctor Who is still going to do very well. I realise that all of this sounds quite negative. It's not going to crash and burn and no one's going to watch it. But it does beg the question that if it had aired now, you know, we have discussed previously in a video that there was the potential for it to drop in January. If it had aired January, February, March, when it's wet and windy and cold outside and people are more inclined to sit and watch the TV, could it have done better? It's not to say it's not going to do well, but is it going to do as well as it could have done if it had aired earlier in the year? Or even later in the year, but not during peak summer and whilst there are a lot of other things to compete with. My final prediction for when the episodes are going to air based on what we've looked at here would be the 18th of May. I think that's the date that makes the most sense. And also following from when we were trying to guess when the 60th were going to air, we all assumed it was going to be at the beginning of the month and it actually was right towards the end of the month. So I think the 18th of May, I think, is the most logical choice for them looking at all the information we have here. And I don't think we'd be stupid to think they're not stupid enough to not have looked at these things as well. So that's my guess. A trailer on the 11th during Eurovision and the episode dropping on the 18th. But let us know your guess. Tell me in the comments down below, which of the 4 dates in May do you think we'll see the first episode of Season 1?